Chapter 21: Parasitism, Mutualism, Altruism, and Domestication. Selfism is the tendency to exist somehow and anyhow. Each organism, or even the acellular propagating entities, plasmids, viruses, and transposons, are endowed with selfism, the ability to exist and propagate. Diverse entities will interact and transact for the limited resources. Therefore, a wide array of interactions emerges due to the conflicts in each other's selfism. Every identity, as a species, occupies space. New identities have emerged that live off of other identities. Some identities domesticate other identities. The interactions and interdependency of identities are inevitable as they are each other's environment, selection. There are diverse ways of interactions, each of which is a struggle for existence through competition, cooperation, or conflict in the transactions of energy, matter, and space over time. The spectrum of interactions in nature is based on the cost-benefit to oneself and others, spanning from selfism to altruism. It highlights the balance of survival strategies within ecosystems and societies. On the left side lies selfism, characterized by actions like predation and parasitism, where one benefits at the cost of others. Predation involves the direct elimination of another organism, while parasitism exploits the host for the parasite's gain. Both scenarios impose a high cost on others, ensuring the individual's benefit. The middle of the spectrum represents mutualism and symbiosis, where both parties gain benefits, fostering coexistence and mutual survival. Competition also fits here, as individuals strive to succeed, often at varying costs to both parties involved. On the far right is altruism, where individuals incur a cost to themselves for the benefit of others. This can involve sacrifice and selfless acts, promoting group survival at personal expense. Extreme selfishness, exploitation, or extreme altruism, self-sacrifice, risks extinction, while balanced strategies like mutualism ensure equilibrium. It encapsulates the trade-offs living beings navigate to survive, thrive, and coexist in dynamic environments. Living by the self-autotropism, autotropism refers to organisms that produce their own food. The main types are photosynthesis, where plants, algae, and some bacteria use sunlight to synthesize food, e.g. trees, cyanobacteria, and chemosynthesis, where certain bacteria use chemicals like hydrogen sulfide to generate energy in environments like deep-sea vents, e.g. sulfur bacteria. Photosynthetic autotrophs rely on sunlight, while chemosynthetic autotrophs thrive in the absence of light, converting chemical energy to fuel biological processes. Both forms are crucial in sustaining ecosystems, as they form the foundational energy source for other organisms. Living by consuming others, predation. Predation is the interaction where one organism hunts and feeds on another. Types of predation include carnivory, where predators kill and consume prey, e.g. lions hunting zebras; herbivory, where herbivores feed on plants, e.g. deer eating grass; and parasitism, where the predator benefits at the host's expense without immediate death, e.g. lice on mammals. Additionally, there is scavenging, where organisms feed on dead animals, e.g. vultures. Each form plays a crucial role in ecosystem dynamics, regulating populations and promoting energy flow through trophic levels. The dynamics between prey and predator are among nature's most fascinating relationships, revealing a delicate balance that sustains ecosystems. When predators rely exclusively on a single prey species, their populations are intrinsically tied. Prey reproduction typically leads to population growth, providing food for predators. As the predator population increases due to abundant prey, predation pressure rises, eventually causing a decline in prey numbers. This drop in prey triggers a subsequent decline in predator numbers, as their survival depends on prey availability. The cycle begins again as prey populations recover in the predator's absence. If the prey goes extinct, the predator, having no food source, would also decline over time. In such a situation, predators experience exponential population loss driven by natural death rates, leading to their eventual extinction. This stark dependency underscores the fragility of ecosystems when species are overly specialized. However, not all predators are specialists. Generalist predators that feed on multiple prey species have greater flexibility and resilience. If one prey species goes extinct, generalists can shift their focus to alternative prey. This adaptability reduces their reliance on any single species and increases their chances of survival. In such cases, predator population dynamics become more stable, reflecting the availability of a wider range of prey rather than a single resource. Those specialist predators that erased the prey might have also been erased. Living by eliminating competition, antagonism. Antagonism in biology often arises from competition for limited resources, driving the evolution of strategies to outcompete others. One such strategy is outnumbering, where organisms increase their population size to overwhelm competitors, e.g., locust swarms. Antibiotic production is another common tactic used by microorganisms to inhibit or kill competitors, as seen in bacteria producing antibiotics to suppress other microbes. Direct physical killing is seen in carnivorous animals, where a lion kills a leopard to reduce competition. Wars between groups, such as territorial conflicts in animals, often involve aggressive behaviors or resource monopolization, as observed in many animal species like wolves or ants. Chimpanzee wars, particularly those observed in Gombe National Park in Tanzania, provide a stark example of intergroup violence. The most notable conflict involved two chimpanzee communities, the Kasekela and the Kahama groups. Over a period of years, the Kasekela group, led by dominant males, engaged in violent raids on the neighboring Kahama group. These attacks, which involved ambushing and killing individuals, led to the near extinction of the Kahama group. The conflict was driven by territorial disputes, competition for resources, and the desire for dominance, reflecting the ruthless and strategic nature of chimpanzee intergroup conflict. Living in or on others' parasitism. Parasitism can be classified into two main types, ectoparasitism and endoparasitism. Ectoparasites live on the outside of their hosts, such as lice on mammals or ticks on birds, feeding on blood or tissue. Endoparasites, on the other hand, inhabit the internal organs of their hosts, like tapeworms in the intestines of animals or malaria-causing Plasmodium parasites in human blood. Both types exploit their hosts for nutrients, often at the host's expense, leading to potential harm or disease. These parasitic relationships play a significant role in ecosystems, influencing species survival and interactions. Living along with others, mutualism. Mutualism is a relationship where both species benefit from each other. There are various types of mutualism, such as obligate and facultative. In obligate mutualism, both organisms depend on each other for survival, like the relationship between bees and flowers, where bees pollinate flowers while obtaining nectar. In facultative mutualism, the relationship is beneficial but not essential, such as between cleaner fish and host fish, where cleaner fish eat parasites from the host. Another type is protective mutualism, where one organism provides defense for another, like ants protecting acacia trees from herbivores in exchange for food and shelter. Living with peers grouping. In the animal kingdom, social structures can vary widely, reflecting diverse evolutionary strategies that influence survival, reproduction, and the management of resources. These structures are categorized based on how individuals interact and depend on each other for survival. Solitary animals. Some animals, like tigers and certain salamanders, are solitary creatures. They do not form lasting groups and primarily engage in social interactions only during mating seasons. These species are territorial, with individuals maintaining large territories that they defend against intruders. In these solitary systems, each animal must rely on its own abilities to find food, shelter, and mates. There is no cooperative behavior or social hierarchy. Instead, the focus is on individual survival. Independent groups. Animals that live in independent groups, such as some bird species, exhibit temporary, situational associations. These species form loose groups that come together for specific purposes, like migration or breeding. However, they do not exhibit long-term social bonds, and members retain individual autonomy. For example, in certain bird species, males and females may pair up for breeding, but the relationship is not enduring outside of reproductive events. These groups are often not cohesive, and interactions tend to be non-hierarchical, with no dominant figure leading the group. Interdependent groups. This category includes matriarchal and patriarchal systems, each with different leadership and social organization dynamics. Matriarchal groups. In these groups, leadership is typically in the hands of a dominant female, often the eldest or most experienced member. Examples of matriarchal societies include elephants, bonobos, and some primate species like lemurs. In elephant herds, for instance, the matriarch plays a central role in decision-making, guiding the group to water sources, ensuring the safety of the herd, and even mourning the death of other members. Matriarchal systems tend to be more cooperative and less prone to violent conflict because the leadership model fosters support and mutual care. The matriarch's role is to lead, mediate conflicts, and ensure the well-being of younger members. Patriarchal groups. In contrast, patriarchal groups such as chimpanzees, gorillas, and turkeys are typically led by a dominant male, or alpha male, who asserts control over the group. These groups tend to have more aggression and infighting, particularly among males vying for dominance. For example, in chimpanzee societies, the alpha male often fights with other males to assert his dominance and gain access to mating opportunities. Once a male establishes dominance, he typically has exclusive mating rights with females in the group. Such systems are often marked by high levels of competition, not only for leadership positions but also for resources and mates. Both matriarchal and patriarchal groups have evolved these structures as adaptive mechanisms for reproductive success. In patriarchal societies, males often compete for dominance to secure mating rights, while females may either cooperate with or submit to the dominant male. Conversely, in matriarchal societies, the central role of the matriarch helps stabilize the group and ensure the survival of the young, as females cooperate in raising offspring and maintaining group cohesion. Bats fall into the category of dependent groups, specifically within the non-hierarchical, cooperative groups. Many bat species live in large colonies where there is a significant amount of cooperation, particularly in terms of roosting and care of the young. These groups often involve social grooming, huddling for warmth, and protection from predators. Some species, such as vampire bats, show instances of reciprocal altruism, where individuals share food with others in the group. However, these groups do not have a strict leader like matriarchal or patriarchal societies. Fish typically fall into the category of non-dependent groups, particularly those that exhibit pair bonding and form schools or shoals for purposes such as foraging, migration, and protection. These groupings are generally less hierarchical and involve cooperative behaviors, but lack strict social structures like matriarchies or patriarchies. In species like salmon or clownfish, the relationships are largely centered around reproductive roles, with some degree of cooperation in raising offspring, but without strong interdependence beyond mating. In contrast, some species like cleaner fish form cooperative mutualistic relationships within their groups. Reptiles generally form non-dependent groups with occasional instances of pair bonding or communal living, such as in species like turtles, crocodiles, and some lizards. These groups are not as tightly organized as those of mammals or birds and are often driven by environmental needs, like basking together for thermoregulation, protecting themselves from predators, or breeding. However, reptilian groups usually lack intricate social structures like matriarchies or patriarchies. The interactions tend to be more opportunistic and less cooperative compared to the highly structured social systems in some mammals or birds. Birds can exhibit a variety of social structures, from solitary living to forming complex groups. Solitary birds, such as some raptors and many songbirds, are typically independent, foraging and nesting alone. These species often have territorial behaviors, defending their space from others, especially during the breeding season. In contrast, many bird species form different types of groups based on ecological and social factors. Flocking is a common behavior, providing safety from predators and enhancing foraging efficiency. Some species, like starlings, form large, synchronized flocks. Others, like penguins and some seabirds, form breeding colonies where large numbers come together to mate and care for offspring. Additionally, cooperative breeding is observed in certain bird species, where individuals help raise offspring that are not their own, often seen in species like the Florida scrub jay. In these groups, non-breeding birds assist with the feeding and protection of the young, promoting survival and ensuring the continuity of the group. Flightless and non-swimming birds typically form social structures that reflect their specific ecological and behavioral needs. For example, many flightless birds like ostriches and emus live in large, cohesive groups that provide protection from predators and facilitate efficient foraging. These groups are often led by dominant individuals, with males usually taking a prominent role in guarding territory or protecting the group. Similarly, birds like the kiwi or some pheasants tend to be more solitary or form smaller family-based groups. They rely heavily on ground foraging and exhibit territorial behaviors. Despite being less reliant on group defense or cooperative hunting compared to their swimming counterparts, these birds may still engage in social interactions for mating or shared protection during vulnerable life stages. Mammals tend to form highly specific and complex interdependent groups driven by both social and survival needs. These groups often have strong familial bonds and cooperative behaviors, particularly in species with matriarchal or patriarchal systems. For example, elephants exhibit matriarchal structures where females lead and ensure the survival of the group, while wolves form packs with clear social hierarchies and cooperative hunting strategies. Compared to other animals, mammals tend to have more sophisticated social systems due to their extended parental care, cognitive abilities, and social interactions. For instance, while fish and reptiles may form groups primarily for protection or breeding purposes, their social dynamics are generally simpler and less interdependent. Fish schools and reptilian aggregations are often driven by environmental factors like predator avoidance, temperature regulation, or mating rather than complex social structures. In contrast, mammals often rely on coordinated efforts for food sharing, care of offspring, and territorial defense, demonstrating a higher level of interdependence. This level of social complexity in mammals is further emphasized by the extended care for offspring, which is a critical aspect of their survival and social cohesion. Living for others, altruism. Altruism involves sharing resources or fitness without any immediate or long-term personal gain, often as a conscious or instinctual decision. The price of altruism. Of the many stories, the story of Richard Price moved me a lot. I saw a documentary and wondered about the psyche and personality of this man. What does it take to live one's experiments and convictions? What does it take to feel your science? To me, that is the life of Richard Price. In addition to his significant theoretical work on altruism and evolutionary biology, Richard Price was deeply engaged in exploring the concept of altruism in his own life. Price's intellectual commitment to understanding altruism was mirrored in his personal experiments, where he tested the limits and practical applications of selflessness and generosity. One of the most notable examples of Price's personal experimentation with altruism was his practice of making anonymous donations to various causes. He would often give away substantial amounts of money without seeking recognition or acknowledgement, embodying his belief in altruism as a selfless act. This was in line with his theoretical work, where he argued that altruistic behavior could evolve not out of direct personal gain, but through a deeper, more abstract consideration of the well-being of others. Price's donations were not just limited to financial contributions. He also spent considerable time and energy helping individuals in need, including homeless people, in an attempt to live out his intellectual convictions about the nature of self-sacrifice and generosity. One of his more personal experiments involved working directly with the homeless population. Price was known to seek out individuals on the street, offering assistance and engaging in long, sometimes emotionally taxing conversations. He believed that, like the altruistic behaviors observed in animal species, humans could practice selflessness even when it appeared not to be reciprocated. In his interactions, he sought to help and understand the underlying emotional and psychological motivations behind such acts of charity. William Hamilton, a close collaborator of Richard Price, played a significant role in supporting Price during a particularly challenging period in his life. When Price faced personal and financial turmoil, ultimately leading to his homelessness, Hamilton intervened to offer both emotional and practical support, Recognizing Price's intellectual contributions and personal struggles, Hamilton provided assistance, ensuring that Price had a stable environment in which to continue his work. This act of kindness highlighted the depth of their professional relationship and demonstrated Hamilton's compassion beyond their academic collaboration, underscoring the importance of mutual support among intellectual peers. While Price's actions reflected a deep-seated belief in altruism, they also highlighted the personal toll such commitment could take. His practice of selflessness was not without its costs, and he often felt overwhelmed by the demands of these altruistic acts. His struggles with depression, combined with his relentless pursuit of altruistic behavior, may have compounded his emotional turmoil, ultimately influencing his tragic decision to take his own life. I visited a temple when I was religious and devout. I visited the deity, prayed for my wishes, and donated 100. I felt the blessings, sat in divine solace on the temple premises for a while, and then came out. I was swarmed by a few kids of beggars and badgered me for money. One persistent kid said, brother, please give me some money. God will bless you well." I gave 5 rupees. I felt great giving money with my own hand. Too much good feeling for 5 rupees. Even before I started feeling good, another kid came and said, brother, please give me some money. God will bless you well." I felt pestered and told her, "I just now gave some money to another kid. I don't have any more change. How can I keep giving if you people swarm like this?" The kid then said with the most pitiful face and tone, "Brother, what sin did I do that I didn't get money from you while the other kid received? Tell me, brother, what is my sin?" I had no answer. I was flooded with guilt, and I had to give the second kid some money. Although I want to mask my acts of giving alms as true altruism, deep down, I am buying some form of mental assurance, peace, and ridding of guilt, the priceless immaterial stuff. What do I take from this story and my own experiences? There is no such thing as altruism. There is a selfish motive in almost everything, whether material or psychological. I give alms to beggars or donate things to schools, making me feel good, earning me praise, bringing fame, or pleasing the gods. There are incidents of immense sympathy towards some people, but what would I contribute to them to alleviate their suffering? Words only, not much money. I am selfish. Hamilton's rule. Hamilton defined altruism through the concept of kin selection, which he formalized in Hamilton's rule. In Hamilton's framework, altruism refers to behaviors that benefit others at a cost to the individual performing the behavior. However, for these behaviors to evolve, the benefits to the recipient must be sufficiently high, and the costs to the individual must be sufficiently low relative to the degree of relatedness between the two. Hamilton's rule is typically expressed as R/B/R is C. R is the genetic relatedness between the altruist and the recipient, the probability that the altruist and recipient share a gene by descent. B is the benefit to the recipient, the reproductive success gained by the recipient due to the altruistic act. C is the cost to the altruist, the reproductive success the altruist sacrifices by performing the act. In essence, Hamilton's definition of altruism emphasizes behaviors that increase the fitness of genetically related individuals, even at a cost to the altruist. The key to the evolution of such behaviors lies in the genetic relatedness between the altruist and the recipient. Acts of altruism are more likely to evolve if the recipient shares genes with the altruist, thus promoting the survival of shared genetic material. Counter-arguments. Firstly, those who are altruistic to another entity should be able to recognize the genetic relatedness, should have realistic costs, not anthropomorphized, and should not have received any benefit in that instant or later in any form. Otherwise, the mathematical descriptions of altruism are just frivolous math. Let's discuss the 3 well-cited examples of altruism in biology. 1. Worker bees and eusocial insects. The behavior of worker bees is instinctual, governed by genetic programming, rather than a conscious decision to help others. The sterile worker bees are products of differential gene expression, driven by the queen's pheromones, not by an altruistic intent. Suppose the queen is replaced with another of a different genetic makeup. In that case, workers continue to serve the colony as they are programmed to do. Therefore, The workers are not choosing to sacrifice themselves. They are merely following instinctual drives that indirectly enhance their genetic success. This is not altruism, but an evolved social structure wherein reproduction and fitness are partitioned into different entities of the group. The worker bees do not have direct reproductive value, and the drones do not show such behavior. Number 2, vampire bat food sharing. While vampire bats share food, it is primarily a form of reciprocal altruism rather than pure selflessness. Bats engage in this behavior with the expectation of future reciprocation. If a bat fails to feed, it relies on others to provide food, knowing that they, in turn, will benefit from a future share when they are in need. This mutual exchange is based on survival, not an inherent desire to help others without expectation of return. Hence, it's not altruism, but rather a strategic behavior that ensures the survival of both the individual and the colony. Three, alarm calling in meerkats. Alarm calling in meerkats, often cited as an altruistic act, may not be self-sacrificial. The sentry meerkat gives a warning call when a predator is spotted, but there is no evidence that the calling meerkat is significantly more likely to be killed than others. In fact, the primary predator in meerkat environments is often ambush-based, and the alarm call exposes the predator. No sentry has been observed being killed directly from their calls. Furthermore, the behavior may be driven by a selfish instinct to maintain group cohesion and enhance the caller's status or survival indirectly rather than purely to protect others at one's cost. In these cases, altruistic behaviors are often driven by self-interest, genetic predisposition, group responsibilities, or reciprocal benefits rather than genuine selflessness. The case of a hen brooding on duck eggs and defending the ducklings, despite no genetic relation, presents a compelling challenge to Hamilton's rule. According to Hamilton's framework, altruistic behavior evolves when the benefits to the recipient, weighted by genetic relatedness, outweigh the costs to the altruist C. However, in this case, the hen's protective behavior toward the ducklings contradicts this expectation, as there is no genetic relatedness between the hen and the ducklings. The hen's actions benefit the ducklings, but no genetic payoff exists for the hen in terms of passing on its genes, undermining the core principle of kin selection. This example exposes a potential limitation of Hamilton's rule. It assumes that altruistic behaviors are driven primarily by genetic relatedness, and that acts of altruism are directed exclusively toward family members or genetic kin. In the case of the hen, the behavior seems motivated more by instinct, imprinting, or confusion than by any genetic incentive to protect closely related individuals. Altruism, I believe, is a construct that is better exemplified in mammals living in structured groups. While it is still an instinct of unknown reason or reciprocal altruism, I am convinced that, at least in primates, there are tinges of altruism. The kin can be recognized, food is shared, and grooming is done. The only problem is that there aren't much of costs. Only a mother, at least in some cases, makes the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of the offspring. Otherwise, most of these behaviors are seen in animals living in groups, wherein these behaviors are the cohesive forces for the existence of the group. We care for and provide for those whom we identify with, and so do animals. Animals have no idea about genetic material. The first entity we identify with is our kin, and we sacrifice instinctually for them because our survival is in the strength of their survival. All instincts or behaviors of altruism, I think, are an extension of motherhood and parenting. These extensions could have become the cohesive force that is essential for the interdependent groups. That which is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees. Marcus Aurelius. Growing others. Domestication. Several species engage in forms of domestication or cultivation of other organisms for their benefit. One of the most notable examples is leafcutter ants, which grow fungi. These ants cut leaves and use them to cultivate fungus, which serves as their primary food source. They maintain a mutualistic relationship with the fungi, constantly tending to it by providing nutrients and creating optimal growing conditions. Charles Darwin noted the fascinating relationship between ants and aphids in his work. Honestly, I was ignorant of this behavior. He writes that ants protect aphids from predators in exchange for the sweet honeydew aphids produce. This mutualistic behavior, where ants farm aphids for their secretions, is an example of a domesticated interspecies interaction. The origins of domestication by humans likely began around 10,000 years ago during the Neolithic Revolution, when humans transitioned from nomadic hunter-gatherers to settled agricultural societies. This shift allowed humans to selectively breed plants and animals for desirable traits, such as docility, increased food yield, and utility. Humans have domesticated and cultivated a wide variety of organisms, primarily for food, labor, companionship, and other practical uses. Domesticated animals include dogs, cats, cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, horses, and chickens, all of which serve different functions from companionship to food production. In agriculture, plants such as wheat, rice, maize, barley, potatoes, tomatoes, and a variety of fruits and vegetables have been selectively bred for their benefits. Humans also cultivate fungi, like mushrooms and yeast, for food and fermentation purposes. Additionally, honeybees are domesticated for honey production and pollination, playing a crucial role in agriculture. Through selective breeding and cultivation, humans have shaped the traits of these organisms to meet specific needs, creating mutually beneficial relationships. Domestication and cultivation are the biggest inventions that boost the collective fitness of humans. Artificial selection. Maize, also known as corn, originated from teosinte, its wild ancestor, in Mesoamerica thousands of years ago. Early agricultural societies selectively bred maize to develop desirable traits such as larger kernels, improved yield, and easier cultivation. This artificial selection transformed teosinte into the domesticated maize plant we know today. The domestication process occurred in multiple stages, resulting in different varieties and land races across various regions. Maize played a vital role in the growth of advanced civilizations in the Americas and has become a crucial staple crop globally. The evolution of vegetables from the Brassica genus, commonly known as mustard plants, can be attributed to domestication and selective breeding guided by human preferences. Different vegetable crops have emerged through these practices, demonstrating the transformation of mustard plants into culinary staples. Cabbage, with its large and compact leaves, is believed to have evolved from wild mustard plants through selective breeding. Varieties such as green cabbage, red cabbage, and Savoy cabbage have been further developed through selection and hybridization. Kale, a nutrient-rich leafy green vegetable, likely originated from wild cabbage and was selectively bred for specific leaf characteristics like curly or smooth leaves. Broccoli, another descendant of wild mustard plants, underwent selective breeding to produce larger flower buds and thicker stalks, resulting in various cultivars like regular broccoli, broccoli rabe, rapini, and Romanesco broccoli. Cauliflower shares a common ancestral plant with broccoli, but was selectively bred for dense, white flower heads, developing different cauliflower varieties. Brussels sprouts, formed through selective breeding of wild cabbage species, were cultivated for their compact buds along the stem, ultimately enhancing their flavor and texture. These examples highlight how human intervention and selection have shaped mustard plants into diverse vegetable crops with unique characteristics and culinary uses. The evolution of these vegetables showcases the profound impact of human influence on the plant species we rely on today for sustenance and enjoyment.